Hello, clan fans. Okay, so just so you know, I'm not starting the video with a recap. I am starting with a full-on reaction here. This episode, the finale of season 7, they brought the emotions. I'm not kidding. I don't think I had a dry eye the whole episode. I was like fighting not to cry the whole time. And there was a scene that 100% broke me. I don't know if you can guess which one. I'm just gonna tell you. Rollo. I broke down at that scene because the second they show Rollo with the open eyes, that just made me flash back to many pet deaths that I've had to deal with. So that really hit a chord with me. And I literally cried into my dog. I'm not kidding. I was burrowing my face in that fur. I was so upset. Oh man. But yes. This whole episode had me teary-eyed, crying. This was a very weepy episode. And on top of all of that, the freaking cliffhanger. I swear I never read anything about that. I know there were theories going around online. I don't know if this was technically in the books or if they're picking up from the theories online and putting it into the episode or the show, but I'm just that intrigued by this because I literally bawled my eyes out season 2 episode 7 and this whole time Faith might be or was alive. What? I'm shocked. I am so shocked. Oh man, that was a twist I did not see coming. And okay, what did Sam Heughan described this episode as? Very angelic or something like that? He wasn't wrong. A lot of angel themes in here. But the way that this episode makes you feel, it was like Outlander has made me feel so many ways, but I cannot describe the feeling that this episode made me feel because so much happened. Like so much sadness, but also so many revelations. Like, wow. I don't know who wrote this episode, but whoever did, I'll probably research the name. Brilliant. The writing in this episode, brilliant. I don't care what the book readers say about this. If it doesn't stick to the books, this episode was something else. Like, cathartic in a sense. Something that you watch when you really need something to feel. Amazing. Okay. I think I reacted what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, William knows about Brianna being a sister. I'm so happy they put that in. Which also brings a full circle to when he met her in Wilmington back in episode 2. So thank you. Thank you, Outlander team. Thank you for tying up some loose ends and at the same time keeping the story interesting and leaving us off with some stuff that we're gonna cover in season 8. I could finish this thought in the next video that I work on for this video. But I will say that I'm so grateful that the show made it to 8 seasons. I don't think I've ever heard of a Starz show making it to 8 seasons. That is amazing. And what they have done with the show, the fan base they have built, all of us, all of you here, when a show does that, that's beautiful. But yeah, just this show has brought so many people together and it's really opened my eyes to so many things, and I could never thank them enough for that. The final episode of season 7, that was a great finale. Great way to tie in 7A and 7B, and I cannot wait to recap it for all of you. I need sleep. But I had to get on here. I had to share my reaction because it was driving me crazy thinking I had to wait a full day until I could do a video on this. So now you have my thoughts, and I will let future Jennifer take over. See you in a minute. Hey everyone, I time traveled. Look at that. So yes, that was my reaction from right after I saw the season 7 finale of Outlander, and I will say I did a lot of thinking after that reaction, and some people have made some really good points, and I'm going to discuss those as well as recapping the episode. So without further ado, let us talk about the season 7 finale, episode 18, titled 100,000 Angels. We open the episode with a flashback to a young Jane and Francis as they are running through a field where there are dragonflies, and they seem to run to a woman who we can presume is their mother. And then we flash forward to Jane being at what is considered a meeting house, and she's being questioned by a reporter or a newspaper writer at the time. I'm, again, not good at titles. But yes, he is asking her why she murdered the man, Harkness, and she is basically giving like vague answers and also saying like she would only wish he was alive so she could do it again. So Jane is speaking with the reporter, and she's very indifferent about her actions, and she basically tells him like, I'm not giving myself to any more to any man, like I'm done. So she makes her point. He also makes a point like, wouldn't you rather it be your words than mine in the article so your sister can see? And that's basically where that scene ends. But it's like at this point Jane is just so done with the world, this world that has been so cruel to her, and it reflects that the fight that she has put up with so long is just starting to dwindle in her. And in the meantime, William is actually trying to find a way to help her. He goes to Lord John and he tells him the situation. Lord John actually does go to find out about Jane, and he reports back to William, like, she's at a meeting house, she's been arrested, but she's basically not going to get a trial, and she's going to be executed. It doesn't matter who says what. And William is very unhappy about this news, and Lord John tries to ask him, like, do you love this woman? And William doesn't say no. He seems to have feelings for her, obviously. He's still exploring it, but he says, like, there's something about her that he can't explain. So clearly there is some love there. He just hasn't, like, fully realized it, which, to be fair, they haven't had a chance to really develop their relationship. But, yeah, it's interesting to see how William has grown to care for Jane, and it ends up being a really big character growth situation for him, especially. Well, even though they can't do anything about it, Lord John tries to comfort William and tells him that even though Jane has signed a confession, like, the one thing she was able to accomplish was protecting her sister. So it won't be in vain what she did. At the beginning of the episode, we also catch up with the aftermath of Claire being shot, and she is in a bed right after surgery. She is still out, and Jamie is speaking to her. It's just such a beautiful moment because Sam, he has always been able to shed at least a single tear in these, like, really sad moments. And he does a great job, like, bringing that emotion. And while he's speaking to Claire, he tells her, blood of my blood, and that he meant it, and he still means it. And then Claire, of course, starts to wake up, and she tells him, like, I've decided that I'm not going to die. And just such a beautiful moment between them. And we do get to see that Claire is starting to recover after about a week. And she talks to Jamie about basically wanting to go back home when she's well enough. And it's actually interesting because I know they're supposed to go back to the Ridge at some point, but they've been away from home for so long that you almost kind of forgot, like, oh yeah, they do have a home somewhere else. But yeah, I'm happy that they will be going back to the Ridge. And while Claire is sleeping one night, she actually has a dream, at least it seems like a dream, that somebody comes to visit her, and honestly, the second I saw the shadow, the silhouette, I was like, wait a minute. I get a feeling of who this character might be. And then when I heard Madonna, I was like, oh, Master Raymond. Yeah, that was, I was excited for that because I don't know if he comes back in the books. I know there's a separate book series where he is mentioned, or there's a section about him, and it does discuss a little more about his character that we don't really get to explore in book 2. But he does come to visit Claire, and she's so happy to see him, and he tells her, like, no, it's not your time yet, and he also says that he's come there to ask for forgiveness, and Claire is wondering, like, wait, what are you asking forgiveness for? And he tells her that with time she will eventually learn. So we don't know what this is. I have theories. I will discuss them at the end of the video because I have a lot to bring up here. But just to see him again, like the actor that portrays Master Raymond, I'm unfortunately blanking on his name. Hold on. Alright, I found the name. Forgive me if I say this wrong. Dominique Pignon. If that's what we're going with the French pronunciation, I don't know. But yes, Dominique came back to portray Master Raymond, and just that scene, it was short, but like you just felt like this strong sense of nostalgia during it. It was beautifully done, and you just kind of had like a flashback to season 2, like at a different time in the show, and it's so crazy that they actually brought that back into this episode. But yes, Claire wakes up, so we can assume this was a dream. I'm not sure if Master Raymond would technically be alive at this point, because he was not old back in season 2, but he was an older man. So it's hard to say if he was alive, but would he be in America visiting Claire? I get the strongest sense that he was a spirit visiting her. It's hard to say, but it's up for debate. But yes, so she tells Jamie about it when she wakes up. She's explaining to him like what Master Raymond had done for her when she miscarried Faith. And it's interesting that they're bringing up Faith again, which they do every now and then, but not always like a deep conversation about it. So this actually is a deep conversation about it, and Claire wonders to Jamie, like, do you think, like, when I die that I will get to see our daughter? And he tells her that he knows that she will. And it's interesting because it made me think about season 3 when Claire almost drowned at the end in the finale. And while she was about to, like, fade into the darkness, like, you hear the music, Faith's theme, which you hear in season 2, episode 7. So it's an interesting motif when you think about it, like Claire almost dying and then you hear that music. We didn't hear the music this time, but the fact that they're talking about her right after her near-death experience is interesting. But that was just a thought that I had while I was watching the episode. The thought changed at the end, but we'll get to that. And then sometime later, Claire gets a non-dream visitor. Lord John actually comes to visit her. He came as soon as he heard that she had been hurt. And just, if you watched season 4 and you had no idea that their friendship was going to grow so strong, like, this moment just was so beautiful. Because Lord John is showing some, like, genuine concern for Claire. And Claire is also even showing genuine concern for Lord John's eye. And he's like, you really are the worst patient. But yeah, it was just such a sweet moment. And then he calls her my dear. And that brings Jamie in. And he's like, don't call her that. And there's still some tension between them, which kind of goes back and forth a little bit. Like, Jamie does thank him, like, for saving William, but at the same time, he's still not happy about the situation between Lord John and Claire. He makes it very obvious, and I just love Claire in the background just doing like this, like, oh, this again. And finally, like, she comes to a point where she's like, okay, good, now let's move on. And she calls Lord John back to her bedside, and she actually says, like, I don't think I ever thanked you for everything that you did for me. And it's just such this sweet moment between them where she gives him a proper thank you. And I just, like I said, I love how their friendship has grown over the years. And I just love how Jamie stands to the side, basically pouting like a child. I'm not kidding. Look at the photos. It looks like that. But yes, beautiful moment between them. And I love that Claire finally thanks Lord John, because he has done so much for that family. Lord John is amazing. And David Barry, like, I don't think we've gotten a full, even half of a season of Lord John ever. So this feels like the first time we've really gotten to enjoy having Lord John on our screens more than like an episode or two. So that was really nice to see, and we got to explore his character more. So I'm really grateful for that. And David Barry did a great job as usual. And then there's another morning where Claire wakes up, and this is actually an interesting image. We see it in the opening credits. We have been seeing it for a while. Claire opens the window and the sunlight reflects on her, and she has like a blue wrap on. It really evokes the image of the blue heron, which she sees every time she's with Master Raymond and she's like healing. So that was an interesting piece of imagery that they used for that. Denzel walks in and he approaches Claire and he says, like, I hope I never have to operate on anybody that I love ever again. And he asks Claire if she's ever had to do that. And she says, I've never had to do surgery, but I've had to heal them. And she tells Denzel that he did a great job. And I feel like Claire has had some pupils in Marsley, in, Malva, that's her name. But I think Denzel has to be one of her best pupils that she's ever had. And he is so, like, open to what Claire has to teach him. And he's really utilized what she's taught him. And I think that's really beautiful, too. Like, it's finally somebody she's truly, like, been able to pass her knowledge on to, which I think is wonderful. Then, one night, they have a surprise visitor in the form of William. He has actually come to Jamie for help because he wants to get Jane out of the meeting house and set her free. So Jamie, like, goes to Claire and he's like, oh my gosh, my son came to me. What am I supposed to do? And she's like, go help him. And so he actually goes to help William, and they actually do a little glass trick, which I believe was in the book. I read that somewhere. And he's doing a technique where breaking the glass will not make enough noise for somebody to hear. And William asks him, like, what he's doing, and Jamie explains that it's something that his daughter taught him. And William realizes that, oh, Brianna, the girl that I talked to, she's my sister. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad he had that moment. To realize that he's not, like, sibling-less. So that was nice. And yes, Jamie is able to open the window, and they get inside. They unfortunately do have to knock the guard out, but they manage to get the keys, and William goes to unlock the door. Now, we saw Jane a moment before this, and she was watching the northern lights outside, and she was drinking from a glass bottle, and she does a little wave to the northern lights. Now, I honestly didn't know what that meant, but that does end up having meaning. But just in that moment, she seems to have lost hope. You can tell just by the way she's, like, humming a song, and she just looks like she's trying to make peace with what she's about to do. And when William gets into the room, he finds Jane, and I'm going to give a warning for anybody who is sensitive to any topics of suicide. Just skip ahead if you need to, I understand. So William finds Jane on the floor, and her wrists have been slit. In other words, she committed suicide because her situation was not looking good. And William is so broken seeing this because he really, really wanted to save her. And if she had known that he was going to go and rescue her, if he had just gotten there soon enough, he could have saved her. And that's the heartbreaking part about it. All about the timing. But yeah, it's hard to watch because William has just been going through it this season. And this was like one person that he really wanted to protect. Somebody who gave him like something positive in his life, even if the situation wasn't entirely positive. But she was there to comfort him when he needed it. And then for him not to be able to do that for her, I think that's what really got to him. So what he does, out of respect, is he takes her and puts her on the bed, and he takes her shackles off. And Jamie helps as well, and then he also cuts a lock of her hair, and he says it can be for her sister, so she can, like, have something to remember her by. Yeah, that scene was just so heartbreaking. After that, William actually brings Frances to the church where the Frasers are, and he introduces them to her, and Jamie is able to give her the lock of hair from Jane, and Frances really wants to see her sister before anything else happens. So Jamie says that the British do owe him a favor after what he did for Simon Fraser, which, as we know, he took him back to Scotland after he passed. So eventually they are able to go to the cemetery where Jane is unfortunately buried in an unmarked grave. And Frances has a meltdown, and Claire does go to comfort her. And she tries to tell her, like, tell me memories about your sister. And she does tell her about the moment of the dragonfly that we saw earlier on. She says that their mother used to take them to go see dragonflies. She mentions how Jane loved the Northern Lights, which, as we saw, and their mother had told them that if you wave to the Northern Lights, which we saw Jane do, that means that the angels that are up in the Northern Lights will take you to heaven. And just when you learn the significance of that moment, like, that really, that hits you. And then she did actually manage to, or Jamie managed to get Jane's belongings, and Claire presents Frances with them. And there's a few items in there, including a locket, and the locket actually has the name Faith on the back, and Frances tells her that it was her mother's, and Claire has a moment when she sees the name, and she tells her it's a beautiful name. But there's a little more significance to that, which that doesn't happen till the end. But yes, just this moment of Claire comforting Frances is such a sweet gesture, because Frances is feeling so upset over the loss of Jane, and she even feels like it's her fault because Jane was protecting her, and none of that would have happened if it hadn't been for her. And Claire tells her, like, your sister would have done anything for you, and it was out of love. It wasn't, like, nothing to feel guilt about. So I just love when Claire gets to be motherly towards people and just really shows so much care for everyone. And I just love that, even though it's a terrible situation, that Frances is going to have a good home with the Frasers, because she is going to go to the Ridge with them. And yeah, it'll be an interesting dynamic to see Claire and Jamie getting to raise kind of a daughter together in a way. It's a nice dynamic that they're going to explore in season 8. Before I move on, I do also have to go back to the scene where William brings Francis. So Claire takes Francis out of the room when William has a favor to ask of Jamie. And William basically asks Jamie, like, he wants to know what happened that night when he was conceived. And Jamie tells him that, like, what happened between him and his mother was not forceful, it was not out of love, but he does feel some guilt over it based on what happened to Geneva, that she passed away in the result of the pregnancy. But Jamie also says he doesn't regret William being born. And it's still a lot for William to swallow. Like, it's just a lot of information to process for him. And he tells Jamie, like, I'm never going to call you father. And he leaves. So even though there is some mutual understanding between the situation and he thanks him for his help in trying to save Jane, he still cannot see Jamie as a father figure. I do hope by the end of season 8 that they don't have to be like close, but that William will accept that Jamie is at least his father. But yeah, just it's an interesting situation that is tough for William. And it was interesting how they got to explore that in the second half of season 7. I also wanted to talk about Ian and Rachel before we get to the end of the episode. So Ian has returned from helping with William, and he does tell Jamie the news. That's how Jamie knows when Lord John comes to visit. But yeah, Ian and Rachel have a nice moment together where they're in bed talking about the future, and Ian mentions that he has land on Fraser's Ridge, and Rachel thinks that that would be a great place to raise a family. And she basically implies that she is with child. And just seeing Ian so happy in the moment was nice. And unfortunately, it doesn't last. Rachel's fine. I'm gonna say that. Nothing happens to the unborn child or Rachel, but I don't know why they had to put this scene in after we've been knocked down so many times in this episode, but I knew this was coming, especially when people pointed out, like, the clip of Ian, like, looking like he was in agony in the trailer. And what happens is Ian wakes up and he calls Rollo, who's laying on the other side of the tent. And Rollo has the face of an animal that has passed away, which is basically the open eyes that have no more life in them. I've seen that look so many times, and it's triggering when you see it. But yeah, Rollo has passed, and Ian is so devastated. And we can just feel his anguish, and John Bell did a great job with this scene, because that is truly how you feel when you lose not just a pet, but a family member. But Rachel is there, and she's trying to comfort him, and he wants to bury him in a special place, and Rachel is willing to go with him. And Ian believes that Rollo held on as long as he could before passing, because he wanted Ian to find Rachel first. That was a well done scene, even though it was so hard to watch. But they captured that moment really well. But yeah, rest in peace, Rollo. Oh, he's been on since season 4. And it is going to be weird to see Ian without Rollo. So at the end of the episode, everyone is packing to go back to the ridge. And while Claire is helping, she manages to hear singing that is happening, coming from inside the church. And something about it is very familiar to her. So as she's walking in, we start to hear the song also. And we realize the song actually does kind of ring a bell. And when Claire finds Francis, who is the one singing the song, she realizes it is the song that she had sung to Faith right after the stillbirth. And Claire looks at Francis and she's like, how do you know that song? Because the song that she had sung to Faith was not from the 18th century or before. It was from the early 1900s. A song that no one but her or a time traveler would know. And Francis tells her that my mother taught it to me. And Claire starts to have a realization between the locket and what Master Raymond had said to her. And when Jamie comes in, she goes to him and she says, I think Faith lived. Like, oh, I'm getting chills. Because that moment was very jarring, because I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting that as the cliffhanger. Now, with that being said, yes, I was shocked. I showed you my reaction. That was very shocking to me. But after a while, I had time to think about it. You know what happens when we think about things. There are some questionable things about that, if that is the case. If Faith is indeed the mother of Francis and Jane. I want you all to think about the familial connection here. And I want you to think about the relationship between William and Jane. Yeah. So people have pointed this out and I realized, oh, jeez. Please tell me that's not the case. Please. I'm going to have some theories here about what could possibly be going on in that ending. Now, Master Raymond had indicated that there was something that Claire would know in time. But here's the question. Was he referring to Faith? How would he have known if she had survived? And what is his involvement with that? Like, I'm genuinely curious how that works. Did Mother Hildegard lie to Claire that Faith had been born a stillborn? Like, why would she have done that? What was she getting out of that? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I can't imagine she would have done that. And if that was the case, what baby was she holding that happened to have copper hair? It just doesn't add up there. And then I started to think, like, could it just be that Master Raymond was referring to the fact that he himself is a time traveler? Because it is very much implied in the other book series that he's a time traveler. So I wonder if that's what he meant, because he didn't tell Claire about that. But I don't get what involvement he would have with Faith. The only thing that he had done when he went to visit Claire at the hospital in season 2 was that he helped to heal her. But he had no involvement with the child. So, I don't know. I'm very confused about that. Could it be that Francis and Jane's mother is coincidentally named Faith, and that she herself is a time traveler? Is that possible? It's hard to say. Because let's say that the baby that Claire had been holding all that time, it can't possibly have been that it came back to life, because she was holding that child for hours with no breath, nothing, no life. And if she had somehow miraculously come back to life, how would the child know that song when she was just an infant, just born? That doesn't make sense. So I feel like the theories that people are saying that it's a coincidence could be more likely. Because even if the child had survived and they gave her a fake child that wasn't hers, it just doesn't add up. Because Claire's saying to that baby, not to Faith then. So there are some things that are a little questionable with the finale here, with the cliffhanger. Now, I am going to say there is a chance that they are just tricking us, that they're making us think this is what it is, or they're just trying to get us to ask these questions. And then when season 8 comes along, they will explain, like, no, it's actually this. And this is just Claire reading into it, like, falsely. It's highly possible. Because I think there's more to it than just that Faith lived. I really believe that. Because, yes, perhaps she would have been old enough to have Jane and Francis, but the way that her birth came about, and to know that song just doesn't make sense with what happened in season 2. So, if you guys have any theories, please share them with me, because I feel like this was not in the books at all, and I remember there being theories online that Faith might have survived. Did they take those thoughts from the internet and put that into the show? I am genuinely curious about that. But yes, I think there's more to it than what we ended with. So it'll be interesting to explore that in season 8 as well. I think if anything, it will just introduce, like, the time traveling element a little more. Like, it'll ground it more than we've had it grounded. We've only had it within the family, plus a couple of time travelers here and there. But I think Claire will learn that there's so much more to the time traveling aspect than she would have thought possible. So I get the feeling that that is what is going to be implied by this, especially by what Master Raymond said. But yeah, I genuinely hope we will get a good answer when season 8 premieres. Now, the last part of the episode I wanted to talk about was Roger and Bree's story. So as Roger and Buck are making their way out of Lallybroch, guess who shows up? In the distance, we see Jemmy. He has returned and he runs to his father. And then Roger wonders, like, where have you been? And he says, I've been with Mandy. And he's like, wait, what? So then he looks up and Bree and Mandy come into view. And it's just such a happy, wonderful family reunion. It's great to see them all back together again. And what's interesting is that while they stay at Lallybroch, Bree actually gets to see the portrait of her grandmother again. And she goes to talk to Brian Fraser. She, of course, thanks him for his hospitality, and she also startles him when she goes to talk to him because she looks so much like her grandmother. But he, like, tries to explain, like, ever since she's died, I just kind of see glimpses of her, and I do kind of see her in you. And Brianna says, like, one thing that she does is she likes to look for, like, signs and coincidences, and, like, mentions that, like, all things tend to be connected one way or another, which she knows the whole history, and she's, like, implying, like, we are really technically connected. So it's just a nice scene between them, and you realize, like, Bree's getting to know her family so much. Not just her father, but she gets to meet her grandfather, and she mentions later that she got to meet her aunt, which we still didn't get to see on screen. Like, have a scene, at least, where we get to see Jenny and Bree in the same room. I guess at least they met. We just don't get to see it, I guess. It is what it is. And maybe if Jenny comes back in season 8, maybe Bree will get to meet her then. Because Roger and Bree do imply that they could stay in 1739, but I think their heart is set to go back to Jamie and Claire's time. So it'll be interesting to see them return. We didn't get to see that in the finale, which I really thought they were going to end with that. But alas, no, they did not. But maybe that'll be the ending of season 8 opener, which I think that could work too. Bree and Roger catch each other up on everything, and, like, Roger really wants to kill Rob Cameron, which I don't blame him. But I don't know if we're going to learn more about Rob Cameron or if that story is done. I feel like we should get an answer as to what on earth was going on. Like, what was that operation all about? Because clearly there was more to it than just Rob wanted the gold. if other people were involved. But I don't know how we're going to get the answer to that. We'll see. Also, Roger tells Bree about his father, and he wonders if he made it back, and he kind of has to accept that he's just not ever going to know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see their story move forward as they go back to Jamie and Claire's time. And I believe in the books they're supposed to have a third child, so it's possible that that third child will be introduced in season 8, which I look forward to that. But yeah, their story pretty much came full circle here, and it's interesting how it started with them needing to go back to the present, and the season ends with them planning to go back to the past, or from their point future. Timelines are fun. We did get an ad for the final season for season 8. They say it's coming soon. We don't know when it's going to premiere, but I get the feeling it will either be the end of 25 or sometime in 26. But that really just hit, because I know it's the final season, but just to see it on the screen saying that it's the final season coming, it just feels so much more real now. And it's going to be real soon. But I look forward to seeing their story concluding. I'm glad that they were able to get to 8 seasons. That is a big accomplishment for any show to get to. And yeah, I look forward to it, even though I know it's going to be hard. But season 7, I will say, was so much more of a roller coaster than I was expecting. Like, in the past, I would maybe cry once every season. There was always one little thing that would get to me more than anything, even though there was always like a bunch of stuff happening. But man, season 7 got me like 4 or 5 times, something like that. And the fact that the finale had me like teary-eyed and crying the whole episode, that has never happened. It was very, very complex how much they went through, and just to see like the historical aspect of all of it was interesting. Personally, I was glad they didn't have too much of the history in the finale, because I love history, but it's so hard to keep up with all the facts while I'm trying to keep up with the story facts as well. The only thing that we learned is that Jamie tells Ian that he's resigned, and Ian's like, wait, are they going to accept that? And he's like, oh, they're going to have to. But that's it. Like, his men are being handed over to Lafayette, and they never come for him. And I'm like, I feel like they built that up and nothing really came of it. Maybe it'll catch up to him in season 8. I don't know. I don't know what happens in the books. I feel like genuinely he has the right to resign after what happened to Claire, and after all that they have done for the Continental Army. I'm glad that that didn't come up in this episode anyway, because on top of everything, that would have been way too much. It was already a lot. I thought it was a great finale. I know people are already complaining about the Faith thing. I understand some of the points they're making as well. Like I mentioned, I do feel like we should give them a chance, though, because this will be explored more in season 8. We don't know what the full situation or the story is. Like I said, I have my theories. I feel like it's gonna lean more towards the time traveling aspect. I feel like there's an explanation there somewhere. We just have to explore it in season 8. But yeah, great finale. There were some moments of season 7 I didn't love, like Jamie's reaction to Claire marrying Lord John, which they still never state that she married him. Like, why can't they just state that? I guess he knows, just would have been nice to have it in the dialogue. Anyway. Jamie's still a pouty child towards Lord John, so tensions are still there, and it looks like the three of them are going to share a scene in season 8, which is for the 100th episode. And it also looks like something goes down between the three of them because Lord John has a beard and Jamie looks a little rugged, so I don't know what happens. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm glad Lord John will be back for season 8 at least. Before I end this video, I would like to make some corrections. Some of the assumptions I made about the story in my past videos were obviously not right. Incorrect, in other words. I don't know why I thought Frances was going to be a love interest to William. I just assumed that. I didn't know she was a literal child, to be fair. But yeah, so now I know the story about that. I don't know if William is ever going to find another love interest. I don't know if it's happened in the books or not, so I'm not going to make any more assumptions. And yeah, I'm sure I made lots of mistakes throughout, and I apologize. It's a lot to figure out how to format these videos and explain everything and understand while I'm watching the episode. I can't tell you how many times I pause and rewind and it's still... I can only get so much, but I am doing my best. Hopefully these videos have been at least somewhat factual and entertaining in some ways. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I want to welcome the new subscribers. Thank you. I seriously appreciate it. I'm glad to have you all follow along and have you all join me for season 8. The good news is we will have the prequel series, Blood of My Blood, in between. I may or may not cover that. I don't know yet. Maybe, since it's an Outlander property. But I'll watch the first episode and I'll see if I want to do a video. If not, I'm just gonna watch the show and maybe talk about it a little bit, like in a single video, just covering the whole season. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of Outlander. There's more to come, and I look forward to discussing it with all of you. Thank you for joining me for season 7. I don't know when we will see each other again, but in the meantime, have a great year. Have wonderful days ahead, and I will see you all very soon. Also, I wanted you all to say hi to Autumn. I think I featured her in the past, but it's been a minute, I will say, because office spaces have changed, and she tends to like stay in her own little corner. Yeah, say hi, Autumn. Say hi. Hello. Oh. Yeah, she was the one I was crying into when I was watching Merlot's death. So I owe her a couple seconds on screen here. But yes, I will see you all very soon. Bye, everyone.